Hello Aquarius, I hope you're well. Welcome to your forecast for the Gemini Lunar Eclipse that's happening at the end of November. So this is going to be essentially the last eclipse of 2020, the last lunar eclipse. And you know, in many ways it's an interesting one. It's a twin to the eclipse we had in June, that lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. It's almost a kind of mirror image of that. There are some strong overlaps, and then it also is the sort of sister to the solar eclipse that's happening in December, mid-December, with the you know, when we have the new moon solar eclipse happening in Sag, and that really starts a new 6-month cycle taking us into 2021. So this is kind of almost the wrapping up of the old, if you like. It's a chance to make peace with, release, and also just get really clear about what you've learned in 2020, what you maybe don't want to repeat, and also possibly what it's time to kind of let go of. So the sun and the moon will be sitting in your 5th and your 11th houses. So for you, the full moon in Gemini here in your 5th house of children, holidays, new love affairs, and the arts, and then the sun in Sagittarius in your 11th house of groups, friendships, and professional associations. So that's really the axis that you're working with at this eclipse. And as I say, full moon lunar eclipses tend to be about culminations or endings. This could be about getting clarity on something, so finding the missing piece of information or seeing something from a new perspective, and that allows for a big shift to happen. But you know, the overall energy is Mercury ruled. We are talking about Gemini here, and Mercury at the time of this eclipse is going to be making a very, very positive aspect to Saturn. So Mercury will be in Scorpio, which is, I think, here in your 4th house. Let me just check. No, here in your 10th house. So Mercury in your 10th house, and Saturn in Capricorn is in your 12th house. So these two will be making a positive aspect to each other, and this is usually about important discussions, breakthroughs mentally, kind of coming to a decision, something that's weighty, that you might have spent a lot of time contemplating, and finally kind of making up your mind, and then putting plans into action. So this may have something to do with a career direction, because we are talking about the 10th house, and of course Saturn in the house of the psyche. So I do feel as though this is some sort of decision about future direction of travel, where you would like to kind of set your compass going forward into 2021. And then Chiron's going to be also involved in this eclipse. It's going to be making some very positive aspects actually to the sun and the moon. So Chiron is currently in Aries, so that's 3rd house for you, and this of course is the area of your mental outlook, your self-expression, as well as close relationships, so with siblings and neighbors, cousins, that kind of thing. So a chance here for healing. Chiron is retrograde, and Chiron is the wounded healer, so I do feel as though there are opportunities here for healing, if we consider this triangle. And then the final thing that I want to bring up is Neptune. So Neptune will be going direct in your house of income as well as self-worth. It was retrograde up until the 29th of November, so just before this eclipse, and during that period you may felt a little bit confused, maybe about how you'd like to earn your money. Maybe you were trying to get some clarity from an employer about working conditions, or how things are going to pan out going forward. A lot of companies have had to put people on furlough and so on, so you may have felt a little bit on hold, or somehow not able to move forward in this area. You may also not have been clear about your skills. If we think about the fact that you're making decisions about career and forward direction of travel, it may be that you also you weren't clear about what it was that you were good at. And you know, of course, if we're not clear about that, it's very difficult to decide, you know, what we want to do kind of career-wise. So, you know, just worth bearing in mind that with Neptune now direct, you might get the clarity that you need that you didn't have before. The only caveat that I want to mention is that Neptune's going to be making a T-square to the lunar nodes, and they are in the same sign as the sun and the full moon. So this takes us back to that eclipse in June, where Neptune was also making a set of a T-square essentially to the lunar nodes. At that point it was in the late degrees, so kind of in the last decan of Gemini and Sagittarius. Now it's in the sort of third decan, if you like, around about sort of 20 degrees. So it could be that these now make contact with personal planets where before maybe they didn't. But the difference between June and now is that A, Neptune is direct, and B, Mars is not part of the equation, because it was back in June, and that caused, I think, quite a lot of aggravation, passive aggressive behavior, a sense of inner conflict as well. So that didn't really help matters. Now, of course, Mars is direct here in your third house, so you feel a lot more decisive than you did back then, which is good news. But anyway, with that being said, let's crack out the Geomancy cards and see what messages want to come through. Right, let's start with the sun and the moon. Okay, so in and of itself, I think that's quite an interesting kind of reflection, if you like. So Albus here for the sun is, of course, Mercury in Gemini, and of course this particular lunar eclipse is going to take place in Gemini. Populus is the moon in Cancer, so lunar energy and then mercurial energy here. So it's interesting. I mean, we've got Populus here with the full moon, so I kind of feel as though what is being made clear to you here at this full moon lunar eclipse is perhaps you know, how you kind of you know, you're quite a singular person, Aquarius. You're not really somebody that goes with the crowd, and so I think what you're being kind of shown here is maybe where you do have overlaps or commonalities that you share with others. Populus is the group, it's the people. So you know, it's not to say that you don't enjoy group situations, you do. I mean, if we think about your ruler Uranus, it very much rules this kind of idea of the brotherhood of man, those utopian ideals of everybody being equal and that sort of thing. And I think what this full moon is illuminating for you is you know, maybe where you're not that different necessarily to other people. That can sometimes be a relief, because you know, if you always feel different, then you're essentially an outsider. So I think this kind of brings with it a sense of belonging to an extent. Now it is in the 5th house, so we could be talking about group endeavors that involve either a holiday, a creative project, or possibly something to do with children. And then we've got Albus in your 11th house. So it's interesting, it's almost the inverse. I'd kind of expect Populus to be in your 11th house. But Albus here for me is about making logical decisions. Albus is white, it's a blank sheet of paper, and it's the air element. So here we're talking about either wiping the slate clean when it comes to a particular friendship, or maybe your group membership of some organization. You know, maybe membership has been restricted on some level and you're having to make a decision. Do I really feel that I need this membership, for example, you know, like belonging to a professional association? Is it really relevant to the way that I see myself kind of going in the future? Maybe you are signing paperwork here where you are kind of deciding to join up, but I think you're kind of giving it a lot of thought. So Yes, I think we will clarify this with, with the Magpie Oracle. But quite intriguing, I have to say. I haven't seen that combination before. Let's look at Mercury and Saturn. Okay, interesting. So I think this decision that you're considering has to do with what you feel that you want to let go of. Now, this could be mental baggage. We are talking about Saturn in the house of the psyche, and this can sometimes talk of heavy thoughts, but it could also be about what we want to cut out, what we want to release from our life, and it could be certain, self-sabotaging thought patterns. It could just be feeling isolated or left out in the cold on some level. But here with Fortuna Minor, you're wanting to make decisions that are going to change your life for the better. Fortuna Minor it's in many respects about a fortunate change of circumstances. Now, what's interesting is that this is also for me about support from higher ups, bosses, from those in positions of power or authority. And we are talking about the 10th house here, which is very often about where we are either our own authority, or indeed what we aspire to become. So it's interesting that you've got this Fortuna Minor here in your 10th house. But I do think that what you want going forward is getting clear about, what, where you belong, and where you feel you get your support from. This seems to be something that's constellating for you. Kind of tribal stuff, soul tribe stuff. So that's really interesting. Let's look at Neptune. Okay, well, this looks good. So yeah, if there has been kind of loss or confusion about money, pay, contracts to do with employment, then it does look to me as though Neptune going direct is going to really benefit you. Acquisitio here is about gain, and very often it's about reaping rewards for past efforts. So I do feel like money matters definitely on the up for you at this lunar eclipse, which is good news. Okay, so Chiron in your 3rd house here, I think talking about healing some situation that has kind of you've been feeling a bit aggravated about in the past. Rubeus, very often about what we're kind of brooding about, where we feel angry, possibly where we are a little bit stuck in sort of negative patterns, thought patterns. So I feel like this is definitely an opportunity to heal something. That either involves maybe an argument with a sibling or a close relative or a neighbor, for example, or it could simply be about healing the way that negative self-talk, so that you are, and also potentially realizing what it is that you have to offer. This could speak of populace here, that you're getting really clear about what you do actually have to offer, whether it's a group situation, an employer, or the world. So yeah, that's good. Let's look at family. Nice. So things definitely changing for the better when it comes to the main kind of things in your life, your roots and your future direction of travel. So these two things really aligning for you in a wonderful way. So yes, fortune, I think definitely the Wheel of Fortune turning in your favor when it comes to family, home, and career, which is great. Let's look at relationships. Nice. Wow. Okay. So this is great. Like Tisha in your 7th house of one-to-one relationships. This is all about happiness. It's about an expansion in the emotional body. Feeling optimistic and happy. So it looks to me as though one-to-one relationships really a source of joy and happiness now, which is always nice, especially if, maybe group situations have been a bit tricky. Yes, but beautiful. Lots of happiness, when it comes to significant others. Okay, so work hasn't been that wonderful. To steer in your 6th house of health and work, it does point to some disappointments, possibly some ill health here, in the recent past. Again, we will clarify with trinkets, but yeah, it doesn't look as though things have been great there. Maybe you've been unemployed. Yes, but definitely some disappointments there. However, the good news being that with Neptune direct, money certainly looks like it's going to improve. If you don't feel that a boss has treated you particularly well, that's definitely going to change with Fortuna minor in your 10th house. So I think don't worry too much. This for me I think is on the wane. Yeah, I mean it could have something to do with a legal contract, some sort of employment contract with a miss here in your 9th house of legal matters. This is about kind of loss, so it could be that you feel that you lost out either on a job, or perhaps you weren't given all the pay that was due to you when you lost a job, so redundancy money, for example. Again, we will clarify, but again, if that is the case, I feel like you will get your just dues, so try not to worry too much. I think this is maybe why we've got Carta Draconis in your 12th house. But then positively, it really looks to me as though one-to-one relationships are going in a very positive direction. There could be sort of a joining up with one other person for business reasons. It could also be potentially moving in with somebody, a kind of pooling of resources. But definitely it's a positive development, one that makes you and one other person very happy. So that's good to see. Yeah, interesting reading, Aquarius. Yes, nice. So yeah, I think overall as you go into this eclipse, your main focus is on positive emotions. You're wanting to feel a bit more happy, optimistic, and who can blame you, frankly? It hasn't been the easiest of years, and certainly Scorpio season was no picnic, that's for sure. But overall the energy, certainly in terms of the astrology, is definitely improving as the sun ingresses into Sagittarius on the 21st of November. There's definitely going to be an uptick in the energies, and I think this is reflected here in Letitia 3 times in your reading. You're definitely feeling that zeitgeist, if you like, of energies of things improving. So that's good. Right, let's have some trinkets. Okay, so we've got the clouds here with the sun, which does point to, kind of having some doubts, maybe about the loyalty of, a friend, but equally it could be having doubts or second thoughts about whether or not you need to belong to a particular group or not. Maybe feeling a bit iffy about social media as well. Okay, interesting. So a reiteration of populace here for the full moon with the garden, and then the book, which you can read in one of 2 ways. It can be about learning from experience, but it can also be about secrets. Sometimes it's literal, of course. It could be the writing of a book, maybe about a group experience of some kind. But there's a real emphasis here on the public and on, public spaces, which is interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's quite particular. I mean, it could be, for example, like going on holiday with a group of people, like a group tour. But equally, it could have something to do with, say, an education project for children. yeah, so, something coming to a culmination in this respect. It could also be about secrets coming to light, possibly about you know, the way that you know, like say you've been dating, you know, using an online platform, maybe you discover that the other party is been keeping a few things from you, so there's illumination here, but I feel this is more positive. I feel this is more you know, a kind of possibly some kind of group creative project, or something to, you know, that involves the arts or a hobby of some kind, that I think that you will potentially learn from. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Let's look at Tristia. All right. So yeah. I mean, with the coffin here, I do feel like this is sort of possibly the end of some kind of employment. Equally, though, if you've had a difficult time recently, I feel like the coffin here is the end of a cycle. So this difficult situation or difficult period coming to an end. Let's look at Mercury and Saturn. Okay. So yeah, I feel like there's been a bit of either loss of momentum, or you just feel as though you've kind of missed out in the past when it comes to your career, and now things are changing for the better. So that's really good to see. Yeah, having to make some choices, deciding what to let go of, what you're not really that keen on anymore, particularly, as I say, when it comes to career and future direction of travel. So making some really important decisions, I feel. But you know, once you do, I do feel as though the universe is conspiring in your favor to move you in a better direction. You know, we've got the Sun here as opposed to you know, counter Draconis, which is, you know, and Saturn. So letting go of something, cutting something out, and moving in a much more positive, lighter, brighter direction. Yeah, so look at that forward movement in terms of money and income sources, which is good. The rider here for me is always about forward movement and momentum, so things really progressing for you in that respect. Yeah. I mean, nice. So with the moon to Laitisha, I do really feel as though you're getting the attention and the love that you deserve. Yeah, a lot more. I think social times ahead here with Laitisha. Definitely an upswing in terms of, as I say, the emotional body and you know, one-to-one relationships. All right, let's look at the outcome of your reading. Yes, so I think overall, Aquarius, this is really about a blank slate, turning over a new leaf, deciding to move forward and to release what hasn't worked in the past. So it's a twofold energy of, you know, this releasing of a cycle, really letting go of what's been disappointing, hurtful, or just of where you don't feel like you belong anymore, and really embracing change, which I think is epitomized in these two cards. And of course, Albus is reiterating the position of the Sun at this full moon. So I think really just choosing to move on from anything that you've had doubts about, moving forward, moving on into a much better cycle. You know, if we look at all this Fortuna Minor energy here, future direction of travel looks very positive, things turning in your favor. So yeah, I think even though, you know, it might be difficult to believe, things are moving in a positive direction. and you'll really start to feel that once the sun ingresses into Sagittarius and we move into that December energy. So yes, hang in there. Let's just have some trinkets quickly to finish. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, so I think this for me kind of sums up the reading. So I think it's sort of learning to rely on your own judgment, so making decisions that are best for you. It's good to get advice or opinions from friends or associates, but ultimately we need to make up our own mind. And then, the fox here, I think, speaking of, again, like having to, be strategic and move forward in a way that doesn't offend people, but equally is in your interests as opposed to other people's. And then the dog here, I think, pointing to your need to find people that are more from your soul tribe. So fewer people that kind of disappoint or that don't kind of come up with the goods. If we think about the cloud here, and populace as being the emphasis of your reading with the full moon. So I think you're kind of moving out of a period of you're moving away from people that haven't really, you don't resonate with anymore, essentially, moving towards people that you do, and these are soulmates with the dog here. So these are people that are going to have your back, that are going to be loyal, and that you've got very strong soul connections to. So interesting, especially if we think about the connection here with the 9th house. So yes, definitely soul tribe coming in for you. I think probably from December, because that's really the reset. So spend this particular 2 weeks really deciding what you want to let go of, both in terms of career and in terms of like social ties, and I think then you'll be ready for that solar eclipse in December, which, as I say, I think is in many respects the start of 2021. So lots to think about, but yeah, I think overall, just bear in mind that things are moving in a positive direction. Keep that in the forefront of your mind, and just do what is required to let go of disappointing energy and move into a place of happiness. Okay, so great stuff, Aquarius. I hope you've enjoyed that. Thank you so much for your likes, shares and subscribes, and I'll catch you again in a couple of weeks for that last solar eclipse forecast for 2020, solar eclipse in Sagittarius.